Hello and welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines in the southeast this Friday evening. Pressure builds on the boss of P&O Ferries to quit while hundreds of ACT's workers plan protests in Dover this weekend.
The Angel of Mostar, the Brighton woman helping Ukrainian orphans to safety, 30 years after she did the same thing in Bosnia.
It's so good to know that they're here, they're safe, and now I can start preparing for the next mission.
Travel firms take on more staff as demand for holidays post-COVID soars. We meet the family looking forward to their dream trip.
And more glorious weather on the way. Join me later in the programme at this nursery to find out how to keep orchids like this thriving well past Mother's Day.
Good evening. The embattled boss of P&O Ferries has faced growing pressure to quit today. His recent appearance before MPs, where he admitted breaking the law, has been described as brazen and breathtaking.
But if Peter Hebblethwaite does resign, it isn't clear what that might mean for the sacked 800 workers. The GMB union has told us that even those who still have jobs are anxious and fearful, and that trust between P&O Ferries and its staff is now gone.
We're live to Dover now and Kit Bradshaw. Kit, so uncertainty for all.
Yes, and of course uncertainty has been facing those 800 sacked workers for more than a week now, but somebody else whose employment future seems uncertain tonight is Peter Hebblethwaite, the CEO of P&O Ferries, who has an office here in Dover. That's because the Prime Minister has added his name to the long list of people calling for him to quit. The Transport Secretary Grant Shapps explained earlier on ITV's Good Morning Britain why he thinks the P&O boss should go.
We expect them, by law, to communicate that with workers, to sit down with their unions and to follow the law. We do not expect them, as the boss of P&O said yesterday, to brazenly go and deliberately break the law. So, and that's what they've done, and we will not let it rest there.
But what difference would it make to all those people who've lost their job if there is a change of one man at the top? Here's the view of the Dover MP, Natalie Elphick.
Well, I think what we've seen is such disgraceful behaviour. The entire board of P&O should go. But most importantly, I want to see the workers reinstated. And that's what I've been working flat out to achieve, together with support for those affected workers and making sure that I work with ministers on this package of measures that's coming into Parliament next week to enforce the minimum wage here on the Channel.
Of course, the growing calls for Peter Hebblethwaite's resignation come after his appearance before MPs yesterday, an appearance that was widely criticised, where he appeared to admit to breaking employment law by failing to consult unions. But in a leaked email sent to staff earlier, he appears to have rowed back on some of those claims. He told them no criminal offence has been committed. Neither me, P&O Ferries or our shareholder DP World would allow it. There has been a failure to comply with the obligation to consult. He also said this type of dismissal could not and would not happen again. This was a unique situation. But we've spoken to a union representing about 150 P&O port staff, and they say they're very anxious about their jobs.
You have to ask yourself, where is the trust? You've seen how underhand and sneaky Peter Hebblethwaite and his board can behave. You've seen it. The whole world has seen it now. How can we possibly take the word of Peter Hebblethwaite and his board when they walk around the port telling people not to worry? On the same day that they were doing that, they were escorting people off the ships with security guards bussed in, wearing balaclavas and carrying handcuffs for anybody that didn't come off the boats peacefully.
So, Kit, still no movement on the P&O Ferries behind you, and a march in Dover expected this weekend.
Yes, that's right. Protest planned tomorrow, and talks earlier between the RMT union and P&O management broke up in just 20 minutes without any sign of agreement. So no sign of movement between P&O Ferries and the unions. And those P&O Ferries are still behind me in port every day. That's the case. The company is losing a small fortune.
Kit, live in Dover, thank you.
Let's get some more news now. And two people have pleaded not guilty to murdering a man in his own flat in Folkestone. Paul Wakefield, who was 66, was found at Spencer House in Coolidge Lane in January with stab wounds to his stomach. Shane Miles of Rock Avenue in Gillingham and Kaylee Halliday of Crown Lane in Sittingbourne are due to go on trial in June.
The jury in the trial of Ali Harbi Ali, who's accused of the murder of Sir David Amess, has been played a police interview in which the accused told Essex police he admitted killing the MP. He also confirmed that it was a terror attack. He decided to target an MP that had voted on Syrian airstrikes because they were accessible and numerous. He said he considered killing Labour MPs as well as Conservative. He denies murder and the trial continues.
The man charged with murdering a mother of two from Sissinghurst in Kent has denied the murder of a second woman. Mark Brown from Squirrel Close in St Leonards had already denied murdering Alexander Morgan at an earlier hearing. Today he denied killing Leah Ware from Hastings, who has not been seen since last May. The 40-year-old will go on trial in October.
The High Court has ruled that Home Secretary Priti Patel acted unlawfully by extracting data from the mobile phones of migrants arriving by small boats. In what's been described as a secret blanket policy, immigration officers would seize mobile phones from asylum seekers as soon as they arrived on UK shores. Vast quantities of data would be extracted from the devices.
Well, from today, any use of mobile phones while driving becomes illegal with very few exceptions. The government says the law is being updated to keep with advances in technology.
Well, legislation was introduced 2 decades ago to stop motorists making calls and sending messages on handheld devices. Now, just about any use will be banned. Here's Kevin Ashford.
Julia Labette is painfully aware of how dangerous using a mobile phone while driving can be. Her husband Adam was killed working as a Highways England officer. He was helping clear an accident on a motorway when he was hit by a car that swerved across 3 lanes. The driver had been sending and receiving messages on his mobile phone.
My son has lost his dad. And, you know, that he can never be replaced. You can never replace somebody's dad. And he's not there. You know, if my son gets married, his dad's not going to be there. He wasn't there for any of his big birthdays. He can't do any of those things you do with your dad. You know, wasn't there to take him out to the pub for his first pint. You know, it's really affected everything to do with his life.
Adam's colleague Paul Holroyd was left paralysed by the crash.
When you're driving along, whether it's on the motorway, on a country road, in town, wherever, that split second that your hand leaves the steering wheel to go for your phone, you look down, that can just change your life in an absolute instant that you can't even calculate how fast this happens. And it can change your life forever.
It's already illegal to use a handheld device to make calls and send texts while you're driving, except in an emergency. The new law extends that ban to doing anything else on your phone, like playing games, taking photos or scrolling through playlists. Anyone caught doing so will face a fixed penalty notice of £200 and 6 points on their licence. Drivers will still be able to use a device hands-free while driving, such as a sat-nav, if it's secured in a cradle, although they can still be charged with an offence if the police find they're not in proper control of their vehicle. Kent's Police and Crime Commissioner says officers will be making sure the new law applies here.
The roads policing team and our community policing team have what this is a fatal 4 offence, and it's part of their normal policing business. So they will be out every single day looking for mobile phone offences as part of normal business. In fact, this clarity around making sure that streaming and games are part of the legislation means that there can be absolutely no doubt that any use of a mobile phone will be enforced.
The latest figures show that in 2020 the police reported 17 fatal road accidents where officers believed mobile phone use was a factor, more than 350 other crashes, a toll it's hoped the new law will help reduce. Kevin Ashford, ITV News.
Now, she was known as the Angel of Mostar for her courage in rescuing hundreds of children from war-torn Bosnia. Now, nearly 30 years later, Sally Becker from Brighton has stepped in again to help young people in need of sanctuary from the conflict in Ukraine.
Well, she'd been travelling to the country to offer help to doctors in the area, but when she heard about a group of orphans trapped in a town under fire, she organised a mission to help them to safety. Mary Stanley reports.
Sally Becker had promised her daughter that she wouldn't travel to the Ukraine, but her desire to help others was too strong. And so, following in her mother's footsteps, Billy joined the mission too. This week they brought 54 children to sanctuary in the UK. Their orphanage was situated in the Ukrainian town of Dnipro that had come under heavy bombing.
We boarded the flight, and just from the moment that we got on, it was just incredible. Everybody was lovely. The cabin crew could not have been better, and we were all prepared for the children. We had all the flags out, and the moment the kids walked on was just a moment I will never ever forget.
Billy wasn't born when her mother hit the headlines in the 1990s for her courageous work in Bosnia, leading a convoy from Sussex to deliver aid and help wounded children. She dodged snipers and shell fire to save hundreds of lives. Sally Becker was imprisoned and shot during humanitarian efforts in Kosovo, but it's never stopped her. She'd been in Ukraine to meet doctors about an app, developed by her charity, to connect them with experts across the world. But hearing about the plight of the trapped orphans, she diverted to help.
I'm over the moon that it's over. It was a long, hard mission. I mean, I wasn't where I would normally be, shelling and sniper fire, and at no time was it like that. But it was a lot of travelling, 5 planes, 3 buses, hours and hours on trains. It was just difficult because of that. But it's so good to know that they're here, they're safe, and now I can start preparing for the next mission.
The children are now being cared for by a charity in Scotland. But the Angel of Mostar wants to help others. Project Light aiming to bring hope amongst the darkness of war. Mary Stanley, ITV News.
Sally Becker, an extraordinary woman, and her daughter now doing the same thing. Wonderful to see. You're watching ITV News here in the Meridian region. Coming up, we're at the largest orchid grower in the UK ahead of one of the busiest days of the year, Mothering Sunday.
And walking his way to Commonwealth glory, Tom Bosworth, the racewalker from Tunbridge, looks ahead to this summer's games.
And remember, you can find more on today's top stories from right across the southeast by heading to our website. Go to itv.com/Meridian. You can call us. The details are on the screen now. And remember, you can follow us. That's on Facebook and on Twitter.
Now, travel companies and airports are reporting brisk business after COVID travel restrictions were lifted 2 weeks ago. One firm in Worthing is taking on an extra 30 staff to cope with a rise in inquiries and bookings.
Meanwhile, Gatwick will reopen its South Terminal on Sunday. Tom Savides has been talking to a family from Hove whose postponed dream holiday is back on.
Remember these? Holidays abroad? Well, they're back in force.
Did you know that every night in Disneyland there's a fireworks show?
The Sanders had to put their dream family holiday on hold because of the COVID pandemic. Now that UK travel restrictions have been lifted, their trip to Walt Disney World in Florida is back on track.
Having missed out on a couple of opportunities over the last couple of years, which we really wanted to do, the time was absolutely right to get booking and plan for some fun going ahead.
You can take Dad to the haunted house where the floor literally disappears.
Harry and Izzy can't wait to swap Hove for Florida in August.
It just sounds fun, Disneyland. I love Star Wars, and they have a Star Wars section, so...
I'm so excited because I've always wanted to go.
Hi, yes, we do have availability for a holiday in Paphos in Cyprus.
This travel company in Worthing is recruiting an extra 30 staff to cope with a rise in inquiries and bookings since restrictions were lifted 2 weeks ago.
This is the largest recruitment campaign that we've ever launched. Clearly, the pandemic has hit the travel industry hard, but with the market returning, we want to bring more people on board to ensure that we can support that demand. With testing and travel restrictions now relaxing, we're really able to show what we can do with a wider range of destinations on offer.
It's been a tough 2 years for travel companies because of the various COVID lockdowns and restrictions. The industry is now recovering and holidays are beginning to take off. Gatwick's South Terminal, which was shut because of the pandemic, reopens on Sunday. It means hundreds more flights can take off and land each day. For families who've waited 2 years to travel, the summer is looking much brighter. Tom Savides, ITV News, Hove.
It's almost 16 minutes past 6 and the ITV Evening News continues here at 6:30. Let's get the details now with Lucrezia Millarini.
A presidential visit to the Polish border as the conflict in Ukraine enters its second month. Joe Biden is meeting NATO troops there as more video has emerged of the bombed Mariupol theatre with hundreds feared dead. Boris Johnson backs calls for the boss of P&O Ferries to resign after the sudden sacking of their UK workers. We've been out on the wards as COVID cases approach record levels. Plus, William and Kate touched down in the Bahamas, but not everyone's impressed by their royal tour so far. Join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
Now, last night we reported on the full scale of the backlog in cases waiting to be heard in our courts, and one solution is a drive to recruit hundreds more magistrates.
Well, they will also have new sentencing powers to jail someone for up to a year for a single offence. The Ministry of Justice claims this will significantly reduce the strain on Crown courts, but some legal experts have labelled it counterproductive. With more, Nick Smith.
Crown courts often attract much of the media spotlight with high-profile trials dealing with the most serious offences. But in reality, 95% of offenders who come through courts are sentenced by a magistrate, voluntarily passing judgment over more minor offences. Richard Cohen has been a magistrate on the West Sussex bench for 7 years now, balancing the commitment with his day job as a financial advisor.
It's been really interesting. There's a huge variety of work that we get involved with. No 2 days are the same, and it's very different from the day job. I think the sheer variety of work that we get involved in would surprise people. Every single case starts off in the magistrate's court, be that shoplifting all the way up to a murder starts in the magistrate's court, and the most serious ones do get sent to the Crown Court, but we are involved in everything.
With a backlog of 60,000 cases in our Crown courts, the Ministry of Justice sees magistrates as playing a role in tackling it, increasing their sentencing powers to divert potentially 500 cases annually away from judges and juries. It's also part of a drive to recruit 4,000 new magistrates, with a focus on finding younger volunteers, like Luke Rigg, from the Magistrates Association. He feels they can ease current pressures on the legal system.
The Magistrate Association believes that it's a key way of tackling the backlog. It will support the Crown Court, which has a significantly larger backlog than the Magistrates Court. And this has been something that's been discussed since, I think, the year 2003. With this increased power comes responsibility and training, and there is a national training programme that is being rolled out at the moment, and it will cover aspects such as allocation of cases and sentencing.
But extending magistrates' powers has attracted criticism in some legal circles. The Criminal Bar Association has called the move a distraction, saying the focus should be on providing better funding and working conditions for barristers and the judiciary.
Our expectation is that the measure as suggested of increasing sentencing powers is going to be entirely counterproductive. Not only, therefore, is it going to not reduce the backlog in the Crown Court, it's probably going to increase the backlog in the Crown Court because more and more defendants will choose to have trials in that court, in the Crown Court. It also means that we're going to have more defendants appealing against their sentences and convictions in the Magistrates' Court. They can appeal to the Crown Court. And that means that you have a Crown Court judge who sits with 2 lay magistrates to hear that appeal.
Well, the Ministry of Justice told ITV News they have no evidence to suggest numbers of appeals will go up by extending magistrates' sentencing powers, and magistrates will be supported by legal practitioners to reduce the likelihood of appeals. And they envisage plenty more ordinary members of our communities stepping up to help continue a centuries-old tradition, playing a vital role in our judicial process. Nick Smith, ITV News.
Now here to do the sport justice, our Andrew Pate.
You went there.
Yeah, I did. There. Of course I did. It was obvious. It's Friday.
It's back of the net.
Thank you.
Right, Andrew, I mean, we talked about Gillingham's Great Escape before, but we've got to talk about it again.
Yeah, absolutely. It's looking close, isn't it? But there is still plenty of work to do for Gillingham. They've just 7 matches to go in League One, and now they're 1 point and 1 place above the dreaded drop zone. But manager Neil Harris knows with tough games against promotion-chasing Sunderland, Wycombe and Rotherham to come, they can't be complacent at Accrington Stanley tomorrow.
Small businesses and local teams, the heart of our communities. eBay sponsors ITV Regional Sport Reports.
Very quick to say that we've not achieved anything yet. How far we've come in, I think was Ollie Lee's words, were like a minor miracle. But we've still got a long way to go, and I still believe there'll be ups and downs, and we might drop back into the relegation zone and then get out again. Ultimately, what we've got to do on the 30th of April is be above that dotted line.
The Commonwealth Games take place in Birmingham this summer, and an athlete from Kent is looking to improve on the silver medal he won last time out. Tom Bosworth from Tunbridge set the world record for race walking, completing a mile in 5.5 minutes. And he'll be hoping for more success in the 20-kilometre race in July. I'm delighted to say Tom joins me now. Tom, what do the Commonwealth Games mean to you?
It's a fantastic competition, and it's something I remember growing up watching sport. I didn't really know what it was, but I just knew it was kind of second to the Olympic Games, and it's such a unique experience with so many different sports involved, not just athletics. So it's why it's looked forward to by so many athletes.
Preparations haven't been straightforward though, have they?
No, I mean, we're all aware that there's been a pandemic for the last couple of years, so that hasn't been easy. And so, normal preparations have become a thing of the past, really, and we've just adapted. I've also had a couple of injuries as well, which really held back my Olympic year last year. That's part of sport, and I'm now in my 30s, and I start to notice things a little bit more than I used to do, and I have to take care of my body a little bit more, especially when I'm putting away so much training, and the demand on my legs is so much day in, day out.
Plenty for you to look forward to this year at the Games, and then in October, your wedding to Harry. How are all things going?
Yeah, it's what a year this is turning out to be. We hadn't planned for it to take this long to finally get married after our engagement at the Rio Olympics, but due to the pandemic and various other things, we finally are able to set a date. And I can't wait, to be honest, because it's going to be pretty special. I think it's hopefully going to be worth the wait. And there's more to my life than just athletics, but I certainly won't be taking it easy this summer as I aim for getting back on that podium at the Commonwealth Games for England.
The whole of Kent, the whole of the country will be cheering you on. So could you strike gold in the summer?
Look, you never like to put a place or a position on a competition, because you just never know who's going to come up against you and what could happen. That's the exciting bit of my event, is with the disqualification side of race walking, anything can happen. And so me at my best, I will certainly be competitive for a medal, and that will certainly be my aim. But what I've learned over the last couple of years is just to take it race at a time, because you just don't know how those preparations are going to go, and it might not be your day. It was 4 years ago, and hopefully, as I say, I can get on that podium again, if not one place better.
Tom, great speaking to you, and best of luck this summer.
Thank you so much.
Finally from me, you may remember when I joined Matt Hodgson and his team of Huskies out on the South Downs. Well, I'm delighted to say he's just won a silver medal at the World Snow Championships in Sweden. Matt from Brighton was in the gold medal position after the first run, but on run 2, a line snapped at the start, causing the team to lose 27 seconds as they reattached it. Matt, though, did finish strongly, second place being the highest ever finish by a British competitor. Well done to Matt and Lux and Ava.
And well done to you, because they wouldn't have done it without you helping them during training.
Yeah, it's all thanks to me.
It's all thanks to you. Well done, Andy. Thank you.
Right, now the sun is shining. It's the weekend, pretty much. It's Mothering Sunday this Sunday, and when the sun is out, so is Philippa Drew. And where better to send her than among the Orchids, the perfect Mothering Sunday present. Pippa, they've got one or two left. Have you had a count up?
see, I've lost count now. I was up to 1,563, I'll have you know. I'm going to have to start all over again. Yes, I am here on Meridian soil at the UK's largest orchid grower. Now, if you bought an orchid from a supermarket recently, chances are it came from here. And despite it being super busy at this time of year, I'm lucky enough to be joined by head orchid grower Malcolm Gregory. Malcolm, thanks so much for taking time out to speak to us about these stunning plants. Talk to me about the numbers. How many have we got here?
We actually grow 40,000 a week, and we do that every week of the year, 52 weeks, so I've got about 1.5 million orchid plants on the nursery.
Goodness me, I'm glad I'm not left to count them all. Now, in your hands, you've got a couple of examples here. They start like that with you, don't they, those little plugs? How long does it take to get them to the stunning blooms we're seeing here today?
From the young plant that comes in that size to the finished article, that takes about a year to grow.
And there's quite a lot of maintenance during that time, isn't there? But you assure me that once they get to that blooming phase, they're actually relatively easy to take care of. Can you give us the top hints and tips for looking after them once us mere mortals get them home?
The biggest killer of orchids is overwatering. So they need just a little bit of water once a week, once every 2 weeks. But they will tell you when they need watering if you look at the roots. If the roots are green like this, they don't need watering. They have plenty enough in there. Once they go a silvery grey colour, that's when they need some water. Other tips are, don't put them in the window, south-facing window, because that will scorch up the leaves. Don't put them near a door, because that is too low a humidity and can do the flowers. The flowers can also drop off if you put them near a fruit bowl. Ethylene gas is given off by the fruit and it can destroy the plants.
Fabulous. Well, wonderful tips, Malcolm. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us. So there we go. We've got absolutely no excuses for letting our orchids fall by the wayside now. I'm going to go home and give mine a drop of water. The orchid's clearly going to thrive beyond Mother's Day, but will the sunshine? Let's take a look at the full forecast.
Feels like home, whatever the weather. Valent Boilers and Heat Pumps sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
Well, it has, of course, been another glorious day across the region today. More of the same to come tomorrow. But as we head into Sunday, things will start to change. We'll see a bit more cloud. And particularly as we head into the new week, things will start to turn a little bit cooler. So out there this evening and tonight, it stays dry, clear skies overhead. Underneath those clear skies, it will become quite chilly. Temperatures widely down to 2 or 3 Celsius inland. Lower still in rural spots, giving rise to some patchy frost on the ground. And also, like last night, some areas of mist and fog, more especially up around the North Kent coast. Tomorrow morning, though, any mist, fog and frost will soon melt away. A glorious start once again. And for the rest of the day, little change. It stays dry, sunny, warm inland, highs of 18, always just a little bit cooler around the coast. And speaking of the coast, here are your high tide times. For Margate, around 5:30 in the morning, just before 6:30 in the evening. So glorious sunshine on the cards tomorrow. Beyond that, we will start to see a bit more cloud heading our way. Some mist and murk perhaps lingering around the coast, in particular into the new week, and temperatures gradually on the slide as well. Bye-bye.
Valent sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
Lovely. Well as being Mother's Day this weekend, remember the clocks go forward an hour on Sunday, so that means we all lose an hour in bed.
I'm not sure we're all going to lose an hour in bed in my house, just to let you know, it's probably going to be me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Well,
I'm over it.
Be here on time whenever it is. Actually,
I will.
You'll be early, won't you? I never know.
Who knows
Spring
what time
forward,
it is?
all that stuff.
Whatever
Have
it is,
a great
it's the
weekend. Bye-bye.